Anna, you're a patron for the Women's Sports Trust. Can you first of all tell us how that came about and why you wanted to be involved?
I think after the Olympics, we had this real sense of excitement and momentum in women's sport. And obviously, I felt at the centre of that with our success in the summer. And I just really wanted to capitalise on it and keep it going. And so when I was approached by the Women's Sport Trust to become involved, I thought, this is the thing I've been waiting for, because I really want to do something for the up-and-coming athletes. I really realised the power of what a good role model can do. I've been into schools and so on since the Olympics, and I'd just become aware of this incredible impact. And it would be a terrible shame if we lost the momentum. So I'm so thrilled that this organisation is starting up that's going to keep that going.
Well, tell us about how it is going to keep it going. What is the Women's Sports Trust and what is it about?
What the Women's Sports Trust does that is unique is it gives grants to up-and-coming athletes and people participating and enjoying sport at various levels. And that's something that's not been done before specifically for women. But also, it's so much more than that, because it works with businesses and there's a sort of mentoring aspect to it. So it connects all different levels of organisation, connects people who have this belief in common that women's sport can be a massive force for good in this country. It can impact business, it can impact kids, and it connects all those things and lets us all work together to make change happen.
We've seen some shocking statistics over the last couple of years to do with women's sport, and when you actually allude to the Olympics, 36% of the medal winners were women, only 0.5% actually got sponsorship. So is it those sort of statistics that have really driven you to want to make change?
Yeah, it is. The statistics do bear it out. The media coverage bears out those differences between men and women. But at the Olympics, it was different. And so I think what the Olympics showed us is that it's not that people aren't interested in women's sport. It's not that people don't want to sponsor women's sport. It's not that people don't want to watch it. It's just that it isn't out there always, and people don't always know who's who. So we need to get those messages out there, and I think the rest will follow. It's about lots of small decisions going our way rather than having the occasional wonderful headline, and that's what we need to do.
I know that through the grants being awarded through the Women's Sports Trust, they're also hoping that all of these things get increased, role models, participation, spectatorship, all those sorts of things. How achievable do you think that is, and what sort of targets should be set?
I'd like to see, when I open a newspaper, I'd like it not to be a rarity that there's a women's sports article in there. I do look through, and rugby and football, brilliant as they are, do dominate. And it's a shame, because we know there's an appetite for it. So I think that will be my measure. When women are in the papers, we know that the younger generation is looking at that, and we know that the sponsors will buy into that too. So, I can see that on one level it does work, because you get Jessica Ennis headlining the Olympics, and that's fantastic. But what we need is all the tiny little decisions, all the editorial decisions, all the children who are wondering whether to pursue a sport or not, all the people who are wondering whether to watch a sport or buy a ticket to a women's sports event. We need all of those little decisions to go our way, and that'll be the big movement for change, rather than the spectacular sparkling headline once in a blue moon.
As well as the Women's Sports Trust launching this week, Harriet Harman in the Commons actually made some very poignant remarks. One of them being that she demanded that there should be equal prize money for women. Is that something that you're behind?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's great that that's now in place at Wimbledon. It is the case in Olympic sports, where they're UK sport funded, that is equal. So, I think that at a high level, everybody knows that should be the case, and it just needs to happen at every level, in every sport. And of course, the prize money should be equal. The training's equal, the sport's just as intense and exciting. The athletes are living these roller coaster existences, and I can't see any reason to justify different prize money, except that, sometimes the men are on the telly and the women aren't, and that's got to change.
Harriet Harman also branded it very 1950s in the current setup. I think she's alluding to the fact that it's all traditional outlook. I mean, how do we change that?
How we change the outlook on sport is by harnessing the energy that we got from last summer. And as I said, it needs to change at all the different levels. So we need to engage the media, we need to engage potential sponsors, we need to engage athletes, and we need everybody to just take a step forwards all together. And that's when you get the groundswell of change. We're not going to achieve it overnight. If anything could have achieved it overnight, it would be the Olympics. That helped, but it hasn't solved the problem. We just need everybody to start thinking, right, if I make this decision in this direction, that it might feel like a small impact, but if everybody's doing that, then altogether we can do something huge.
Everyone's spoken about the Olympics and how, at the elite level, it can filter down the women's sports message. How about the other way? How about it filtering up, and girls' sport in particular, at schools, and what maybe the government should be doing?
I think that in schools it's difficult. Teenage girls, I remember being a teenage girl, you don't want to get showered in the changing rooms in front of your friends. It's all, there's all kinds of issues there. So I think it's really important for athletes to be going into schools. I remember Sharon Davis coming into my school when I was 10 years old, and it's sowing a seed. These things need to be made real for kids. And I know there's a lot of good work going on with the British Olympics Association and so on to make those things happen. But also, it needs to be there needs to be an element of excitement, an element of glamour to attract those girls into it. So we need to project the positive role models. We need to send out the message that doing sport is not going to make you uncool and sweaty, but it's going to make you fantastically fit and healthy and gorgeous, because that's what it's all about when you're 16. And 16-year-olds are all gorgeous anyway. We know that, but they perhaps don't. So. We've all got a responsibility. We've all got a responsibility. Parents, men, women in every walk of life. We've got to just keep nudging every little decision in the right direction.
How do you think women in sport right now are being seen?
I think that at the very top level, women in sport are respected. At Olympic level, the ones that have the profile have equal respect to the men. But that's such a tiny proportion of well-known athletes. And there's a bit of derision sometimes, with say the England, I don't know, netball teams, hockey teams, people that we don't know so much about. You think, well, they can't be any good because they're not on TV, they're not in the newspapers, but they are. And they're absolutely amazing, fantastically committed, talented, wonderful, sparkling athletes. And we need to know all about all of them, because they're just all just wonderful role models, wonderful people. It's going to enhance our country and enhance all of our lives.
How does it feel to be a role model yourself in women's sport?
It's a fair amount of responsibility. I find it quite wonderful, actually, because I was competing myself with my own goals and feeling like rowing was quite a selfish existence. I was in pursuit of my Olympic gold medal and nothing else mattered for a while. And then you come out of that bubble and you realise that in an indirect way, you're changing people's lives. And I had the tweets and messages that I had after the Olympics. I've gone down to the rowing club and I'm taking up the sport. It really means a huge amount to me. It's really moving. So I just want to make the most of the opportunity, really, and do something with the fantastic platform that I've been given.
Who were your role models growing up?
I grew up taking for granted the fact that women could do whatever they wanted to do. I don't know whether that was down to my parents or down to people like Sharon Davis coming into my school. But somewhere in my upbringing, nobody ever said, you can't do that. And for me, that made it all possible. And I know that people don't always think like that. And I think everybody should think like that. Everybody should think that sport is possible and wonderful, and being a woman shouldn't hold you back from anything. But we know that these attitudes do still persist, and we do hear of little problems here and there all the time. And it's not going to be one person making an amazing speech that's going to change it. It's going to be every teacher in every classroom having a positive attitude towards it. Every parent, every dad who perhaps assumes that he should be the one to change the plug, when something he's doing in the house, getting their daughter to do it instead. It's not the headline stuff. It's the little stuff. That's what's still pervasive in our culture. The day-to-day, just assumptions that there are things that women can't do. We know on one level that we can, but we've got to change how we behave.
Finally, we're at the Women's Sports Trust launch now. Let's fast forward 12 months. What would you like to see the Women's Sports Trust achieve in that time?
In 12 months' time, I would love to be coming to a celebration of the first year where we've seen businesses engage with athletes. We've seen increased spectatorship at women's sports events. We've seen increased media profile for up-and-coming athletes and established athletes, and we've seen those athletes mentoring each other. I've no doubt that we're going to be talking about success stories, because there's so many fantastic, talented people on our side, and I've no doubt we can do it.